Of course I think we can win, and I'm fighting every single day to win.
We've now put forward a plan that... Is that bird worrying you?
Yeah. They're afraid of us. They can see that our movement is growing.
Well, you're not going to have a stand in the Parliament.
Let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom, as far as I'm concerned.
This is the 4ZZZ Break the Election podcast for the Queensland state election in 2024.
Hello, and welcome to 4ZZZ Breaks the Election podcast, just 22 days away from the 2024 state election. My name is Alexis Pink. I'm the news coordinator at 4ZZZ, and joining us today is...
Jaya here. Hello.
Hello, Jaya.
Hello.
Pineapple Rebellion expert.
I am indeed an expert in those rebellious pineapples.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
In this podcast series, we're going to bring you up to date with the election and break down all things that are being said and why. So, Jaya, take us away. What's our first story today?
Our first story is the debate summary. Last night, Premier Stephen Miles and Queensland opposition leader David Crisafulli pitched why they should be the next Queensland Premier in the first debate ahead of the upcoming state election on October 26. The debate commences after months of campaigning ideas on how to best improve Queensland. To kick off the debate, Stephen Miles listed his policies, which include the cost of living crisis, $200 in sporting vouchers for children, 50-cent public transport services, community safety, action towards youth crime, 20% off rego, $1,000 off electricity bill, and more. Meanwhile, opposition leader David Crisafulli listed his policies, which included addressing youth crime through his adult crime, adult time policy, housing, the cost of living crisis, but Mr. Crisafulli did not go into specifics compared to Mr. Miles. Channel 9 eventually declared Mr. Crisafulli the winner of the debate, although the panellists did note that his lack of a plan did weaken his overall argument.
Okay, so let's start at the top. Who do you think won this debate?
I think Stephen Miles won, mainly because for the entire night he appeared to be on the offensive, whereas David Crisafulli appeared to be on the defensive, having to defend every word and claim that he was making.
Certainly the stuff around set solutions wasn't a good look. Again, he's being pummeled on that, and it just feels uncomfortable on those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But there was also the sort of surface level policy stuff that was evident in Mr. Crisafulli's work. It looks like he has things to announce. He just wasn't willing to announce them last night.
Yeah, and I also think that abortion and voluntary assisted dying also did hurt him.
Yeah, like he's saying he's a collegiate leader, but he's also saying that those issues won't come back onto the table. Quite a lot of LNP MPs want voluntary assisted dying and abortion to be back on the agenda for the next term, so it's hard to imagine how he can balance both of those things.
Yeah, Stephen Miles raised the point, is like conscience voting, and
who knows what's going to be on the agenda really, but I would suspect that if there's a big enough push in the LNP, it will happen.
Yeah.
So I can't say that his promises to rule it out are that strong at the moment. That's my opinion about it anyway.
Yeah, who do you think won?
I think it was Stephen Miles. I did enjoy his approach to saying that government is hard.
Yeah.
That, you know, not everything is going to go right, and you can only work on things over a long period of time to improve them. He also sort of differentiated himself from Anastasia Palaszczuk in a way that I thought was firm, but not disparaging of his predecessor.
No, it was a very diplomatic answer, I feel.
Yeah, that all decisions taken are difficult, and I just have a different approach.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was Stephen Miles' night, but not by a lot, though their performances were fairly comparable. Stephen was a little bit more mumbly on his own work, but kept that opposition up all night and made it about Crisafulli and his, let's say, paper-thin plan.
Yeah, like lack of a plan was the word they were using.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to story number 2.
Yeah, the biggest story of the night was the fact that opposition leader David Crisafulli has pledged to resign after one term as Premier if he is unable to improve crime statistics. During the first leaders' debate for the Queensland election, Mr. Crisafulli made a promise to resign if there wasn't a decrease in numbers of individual victims of crime if he were elected in October. He was not clear on the specifics on what the target figure for the number of victims was, though. Premier Stephen Miles was quick to jump on the claim, mentioning that under the Newman government, domestic violence incidents were excluded from the official victim statistics.
So, straight up, do we believe David Crisafulli when he says he is definitely going to resign from the top job in politics if he doesn't hit these numbers?
I don't know.
It is hard to say.
It's quite a claim to be making.
Especially one that you won't have to cash in for at least 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty clear that he's only going to measure this at the end of his term.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the measures are, like what deems lower crime statistics. And he was pushed on that last night by the panellists, but he was very low.
Because I don't like his chances of keeping victim levels low if the population in Queensland is increasing.
Yeah.
And certainly I don't like his chances of keeping them low if domestic violence is included. It's one of the biggest growth areas of criminal activity. And Stephen Miles mentioning that DV wasn't on the topic list in the Newman government, yeah, that says a lot about how that might be interpreted. So a lot of questions to be asked about that. Don't know where to start, to be honest. All right. So what are your thoughts about adult crime, adult time policies? Do you think they're going to have an impact on these victim numbers?
Oh, God. Adult crime, adult time. I'll be so happy when we don't have to hear about it anymore. I don't think that it's an effective way to achieve what they're wanting to achieve.
As much as the LNP has been saying that youth crime is a big problem in the state, it's not vastly different to how it was before the pandemic.
Yeah, I'm going at this purely from an expert perspective, and all the experts and the data has indicated you cannot punish your way out of
and
this
that's
system.
Definitely what the experts have been saying about this. And they've also been saying that an increase in crime is not an impossibility if you start doing this. So it's hard to imagine how he's going to meet his target using policies like this.
It's a very hardline approach, and I don't think that it will achieve the outcome that he's after, and that's my opinion on the policy.
He has been saying that he is interested in rehabilitation and early intervention as well, but these policies sort of work against each other in a certain way, that one pushes in one direction, one pushes in the other. All right, let's move on to the next story. What do we got?
Yes, we're going up to the Sunshine Coast because it's good news for Sunshine Coast residents as the LNP has pledged the government to improve the infrastructure and congestion on the Sunshine Motorway. $40 million is expected to be spent on the new on- and off-ramps that can be built to connect to the West Coolum Road, which could be linked to the Coast Council proposed extension of the South Coolum Road. LNP member for Maroochydore Fiona Simpson says that our local road network is at a choke point and only an LNP government will deliver the upgrades we need to keep traffic flowing.
Only an LNP government will deliver road upgrades. That's all this current government has been doing as far as road. Certainly they've been in different areas, but I wouldn't say it's off the table, is how I'd probably describe that. But more than that, is there significant value in increasing road capacity?
I think so. I'm originally from the Sunshine Coast, and it's pretty dire up there.
Admittedly, the Sunshine Coast Road is one of the busiest roads in and out of that area. But on the other side of that coin, induced demand is still a thing. Adding extra capacity may not improve that situation a lot. Maybe more public transport options are something that should be invested in.
Yes, obviously.
Maybe a parallel here that, you know, sometimes you need to upgrade roads, but also sometimes you need to upgrade public transport. And admittedly, the state government has been slow to move on that as well. Certainly their promise to bring heavy rail to the Sunshine Coast has been quite slow.
The LNP has, on the topic of public transport, has been saying that if they're elected in government, they will expand the public transport network to better cater to Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast residents.
Yeah, it's sort of an interesting topic. I can imagine a lot of Sunshine Coast people voting on that particular one, especially if you sit in traffic for any amount of time.
A more reliable bus service would be great.
Yeah. And that's all the time that we have for 4ZZZ Breaks the Election podcast today. For more updates, you can find us on 4ZZZ in our morning bulletins, Brisbane Line on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays at midday, and make sure to catch us on the Pineapple Rebellion at 9am on Fridays. If you want to support the project, subscribe to 4ZZZ, 4ZZZ.org.au/support. Subscribe today. It really does help us out. Thanks for joining us, and we will be back next week. Goodbye!